August 1916. A train pulls out of Mississippi, headed north. Chicago, Detroit, New York. Freedom, they said. 6 million black Americans board trains over the next 54 years. Running from Jim Crow, running toward hope. Carrying everything they owned in suitcases tied with rope. But here's what nobody talks about: they carried recipes. Not written down, memorized. Passed from grandmother to mother to daughter in kitchens that would soon be ashes behind them. These recipes rode segregated trains, fed factory workers through double shifts, comforted children crying for southern homes they'd never see again, built community in tenements where nobody knew your name. Chicago's South Side, Detroit's Black Bottom, Harlem's brownstones. Southern food created northern neighborhoods. Cast iron skillets recreated Mississippi in Michigan. Every pot of beans was resistance. Every fried chicken piece was memory refusing to die. Today, I'm taking you back, when food wasn't Instagram, when cooking was survival, when recipes were the only thing fire and hate couldn't steal, when black families fed themselves through the greatest migration in American history. Stay with me. These 20 recipes tell how 6 million people carried home in their hands, their hearts, their cast iron skillets they refused to leave behind. Number 1. Fried chicken, June 1923. Birmingham train station. A grandmother clutches a shoebox, not shoes inside. Golden fried chicken, cold, wrapped in wax paper and cloth. Napkins, strategic, calculated, survival food for a journey. Through states that wouldn't serve her in dining cars because her skin was wrong. This chicken was brined overnight. Buttermilk and hot sauce. A technique perfected by enslaved cooks generations back. Knowledge passed through hands that never got to write it down, but never forgot it either. She dredged each piece in seasoned flour, salt, black pepper, paprika, garlic powder. No measuring cups, just feel. Just knowing. Just generations of black women who made magic for nothing and called it dinner. A cast iron skillet heated with lard until it shimmered like summer heat on Alabama highways. Temperature tested with water drops that danced, not thermometers. Just instinct. Just survival knowledge encoded in muscle memory. Frying was patience. Too hot burned outside, raw inside. Too cool grease everywhere. Just right golden, crackling, perfect for 30 hours on a segregated train through hell toward something they called freedom but felt like different chains. She packed it warm. Brown paper bags absorbed grease without stealing crispness. This chicken would feed her family through states that saw them as less than human. Through exhaustion. Through fear. Through wondering if Chicago would be any better than Birmingham. By September 1923, she's frying this same chicken in a South Side tenement. Sunday ritual. Church clothes and fried chicken. Both were armor. Both said we're still us. Both said you can take our homes, but you can't take our tables, our recipes, our refusal to disappear. Number 2. Smothered cabbage. March 1943. Detroit. A woman drags herself home after double shift at the tank factory. War effort. They need her hands now. They'll forget her name later. Her feet scream. Her back's broken. But she stops at the corner market. 1 head of cabbage. 15 cents. Same cabbage that fed her Georgia family for generations. Tonight it feeds them in Michigan cold that cuts like knives. She slices thin. Knife moving automatic. Her grandmother's hands in Savannah taught these motions. Dead 20 years, but alive in every slice. Alive in the way the knife sounds against the cutting board. Alive in muscle memory that migration couldn't kill. Cast iron skillet. Bacon fat shimmering. The smell hits before anything cooks, already promising comfort before comfort arrives. Already saying home, even though home is 1,000 miles. South and nobody's going back. Ever. Bacon pieces first. Rendering, crisping, creating foundation. Then onions that soften into gold. Then cabbage mounted so high, it seems impossible until heat and cover make it surrender. Make it collapse into itself, like hope did when Detroit wasn't the promised land they said it would be. Salt, black pepper, sugar to cut the bitterness some folks can't handle, vinegar for brightness, lid on, 30 minutes. Steam trapped, cabbage transforming from tough to silk, from bitter to sweet, from Georgia to Michigan without losing itself along the way. She stirs occasionally, checking, making sure nothing sticks, making sure the bottom browns without burning, making sure dinner doesn't fail, because failure means her children go hungry, and hunger means she failed, and she can't fail. Not after coming this far, not after losing everything else. The apartment fills with smell that says home. Not this Detroit apartment with thin walls and frozen pipes. Georgia home. Alabama home. The home that tried to kill them, but they still miss anyway, because missing doesn't make sense, but neither does anything else about leaving. Number 3. Cornbread dressing, November 1955. Chicago. Bronzeville. Thanksgiving. A woman stands in her kitchen recreating her mother's dressing from Mississippi memory. Nobody can steal, because memory lives in hands, not books. This isn't northern stuffing. Isn't fancy bread cubes and sage pretension. This is southern dressing. Cornbread base. Made yesterday. Left overnight to dry, because fresh cornbread makes mush, not magic. She crumbles it by hand, texture sandy and golden. Each piece breaking exactly right, because her hands know right. Know what her mother's hands knew. Know what her grandmother's hands knew back, when knowing was dangerous, but they knew anyway. Celery and onions sautéed in butter. Soft, fragrant, building flavor base. This is foundation. This is what makes dressing dressing, instead of just bread in a pan, hoping for the best and getting disappointment. Chicken broth added slow. Absorbed careful. Too much soggy disaster. Too little dry failure. Just right fluffy perfection that makes Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving even in Chicago, where snow falls instead of rain, and nobody knows your family name or cares where you came from. Sage, thyme, black pepper, poultry seasoning. The herbs her mother used in Mississippi kitchens that don't exist anymore. Torn down or burned or just abandoned when everyone with sense left for north. Proportions adjusted by instinct, by generations, by hands that remember, even when brains forget. She bakes at 350 degrees. Top browns and crisps. Inside stays moist and custardy. Perfect. This is what perfect is. Not fancy, not expensive, not complicated. Just right. Just exactly what it's supposed to be, which is Mississippi on a Chicago Thanksgiving table. Her children eat it not knowing their grandmother made this exact dressing in a kitchen they'll never see. Not knowing this recipe survived. Not knowing survival is the whole point. Not knowing isn't necessary for dressing to taste like home. Number 4. Lima beans with ham, January 1938. Philadelphia. Sunday. Steam rises from a pot of lima beans simmering since morning. Butter beans, whatever you call them. Sunday dinner is what matters now. The beans soaked overnight in cold water. Swelling fat and tender. Ready. This is preparation. This is planning. This is what her South Carolina grandmother taught good food takes time, and time is what you give food if you respect it. Respect yourself. Respect the people you're feeding. Ham hock first. Smoked. Salty. Flavor bomb that transforms simple beans into extraordinary. This is the secret. This is what makes poor food rich food. This is what her grandmother knew during Reconstruction, when knowing how to make something from nothing meant living or dying. Onions, garlic, bay leaf, black pepper. Aromatics that make the apartments smell welcoming, when welcoming is hard, because Philadelphia winter is brutal. Can Philadelphia people are cold? Can Philadelphia? Promised freedom, but delivered different chains polished shinier. The beans simmer hours, low and slow. Ham hock breaking down until meat falls off bone in shreds. This is patience. This is what cooking teaches. Good things take time, and rushing makes everything worse. And maybe that's true about life too. But nobody's got time for philosophy when dinner needs cooking. She tastes, adjusts. Salt carefully because ham hock already contributed plenty. Hot sauce for those who want it. Not too much because children can't handle spice, but enough because bland is insult to ingredients, to effort, to everything her grandmother taught about food mattering. Beans finish creamy and rich. Pot liquor thick enough to soak cornbread. Complete meal. Costs almost nothing. Feeds everyone. This is math that makes sense when nothing else does. This is economy that sustains when economy crashes. This is survival served in bowls that say Sunday even when Sunday feels like Monday. Every spoonful carries South Carolina. Every bite is memory. Every bowl says we made it. We survived. We're still here. We're still cooking. We're still us. Number 5. Pecan Pralines, October 1928. New Orleans kitchen. A woman makes pralines one last time before her family leaves for Chicago next week. Last time cooking in this kitchen. Last time anything here. Last time before everything changes forever. The recipe came from her Creole grandmother. Sugar, cream, butter, pecans. Cooked to softball stage, then beaten until cloudy. Simple ingredients, complicated technique. The difference between candy and crystallized failure is degrees and timing, and knowing that only comes from practice and failure and trying again. Heavy copper pot because candy demands precision. Right equipment makes difference. She learned this young. Learned that shortcuts in candy making create disasters. Learned that some things require proper tools or they don't work at all, no matter how much you want them to. Sugar dissolves in cream or medium heat, bubbling golden. Dangerous. Requires constant attention. Candy thermometer watching. This is focus. This is meditation. This is the kind of cooking that doesn't forgive distraction or multitasking or thinking about. Chicago while standing in New Orleans, making pralines for the last time. 236 degrees exactly. Softball stage. When a drop in cold water forms pliable ball, pecans go in now, not before, not after. Now, timing is everything in candy. In life, in knowing when to leave home before home kills you, but not so early you don't grab the recipes first. Off heat. Beat vigorously with wooden spoon. Loses gloss. Begins thickening. Arms burning. Keep beating. This is labor. This is why candy costs money. This is why pralines matter. They represent work, skill, knowledge that can't be bought, only learned, only passed down, only carried north in tins packed between clothes that smell like goodbye. Working fast now. Dropping spoonfuls onto wax paper. Each praline spreading perfect circle before setting hard. Race against thermodynamics. Race against crystallization. Race against pralines deciding to be grainy instead of creamy. And there's no fixing it once they decide, so you work fast or you fail. These candies travel north in a tin. Sweet reminders of Louisiana. Proof that home fits in suitcases if you try hard enough. Proof that some things survive migration. Proof that leaving doesn't mean forgetting, even when forgetting would hurt less than remembering does. Number 6. Chicken and Dumplings, February 1952. Cleveland. Ohio winter that cuts through walls and bones and hope. Chicken and dumplings simmer on the stove. Comfort against cold that feels personal, feels targeted. Feels like Ohio's way of saying you shouldn't have come north if you couldn't handle north. Old chicken in the pot. Older chickens are tough. Require hours to become tender. Young chickens cost more. Old chickens cost less. Math is simple and budget is tight. Time she has, money she doesn't. So old chicken it is. Onions, celery, carrots. The chicken cooks with vegetables. Hours passing, broth becoming gold, fat rising, vegetables surrendering essence. This is alchemy. This is transformation. This is making something beautiful from something other people throw away because they're rich enough to waste what poor people know to treasure. She removes chicken, strips meat from bones, returns it to pot. This is stretching. This is making one chicken feed 8 people. Depression years taught this. Taught that nothing gets wasted. Taught that every scrap matters. Taught that survival means using everything, because there's no everything, there's only whatever you can make work. Dumpling dough mixed quick. Flour, making powder, salt, milk, butter. Just enough handling to come together. Too much makes them tough. Too little leaves them shaggy. Just right makes them tender. Cooking teaches precision, disguised as instinct. Teaches that knowing comes from doing, not reading, not watching, just doing until hands know better than brain does. Spoonfuls of dough dropped directly into simmering broth. They puff, they steam. 15 minutes. Don't lift the lid. Don't peek, don't disturb. Some things require patience and faith, and leaving well enough alone. Dumplings are one. Maybe life is another, but that's philosophy. And right now, there's dinner to finish. Dumplings absorb broth, turn fluffy and tender. Each bite carries chicken essence, carries vegetables, carries childhood memories of Alabama before migration, before factory work, before Cleveland winters that never end, before everything changed and can't change back, no matter how much missing hurts. This dish stretches one chicken to feed everyone. That's the point. That's always the point. Making enough from not enough. Making plenty from scarcity. Making family dinner happen when everything says family dinner is luxury you can't afford. Making it happen anyway, because giving up isn't an option when children are watching. Number 7. Fried okra. August 1945. Harlem. A woman finds fresh okra at the market. Stops dead. Stares. Alabama is at the vegetable stand in Manhattan, and she hasn't seen okra in New York ever. And suddenly she's crying in public over a vegetable, which is embarrassing, but she doesn't care because okra. Okra defined southern gardens, defined summer, defined home in ways she can't explain to her New York-born children who think home is Harlem and don't understand that home is also elsewhere, is also south, is also a place they'll never see, but she can't stop carrying in her chest like a weight. She buys all of it, every piece, carries it home like treasure, because it is treasure, because okra in Harlem is miracle, because sometimes vegetables matter more than they should, because they're not really vegetables. They're memory, their connection, their proof that home still exists somewhere, even if that somewhere isn't here. She slices it into rounds. Sticky sap coats her knife. Texture that northerners find disgusting, she finds comforting. This is difference. This is divide. This is the gap between people who know okra and people who think okra is slimy, gross, weird, and she doesn't care what they think because they're wrong and she's right and okra is perfect. Cornmeal and salt and cayenne, coating each piece completely. Then into hot oil in cast iron skillet, fries fast. Crisps quick. Golden crust forms around okra rounds that are crunchy and addictive, if you understand, if you're from somewhere. That knows okra isn't weird. It's wonderful. High heat. Quick cooking. That's the trick. Long cooking makes okra slimy, confirms northern prejudices, validates their disgust. Fast frying keeps it crispy, keeps texture right, keeps it tasting like Alabama, like summer, like gardens behind houses that don't exist anymore, because everyone left and empty houses fall down eventually. Drains on newspaper, salts immediately while hot, pieces crunchy like the best potato chips. better than potato chips. Okra is better than everything if you know. If you're from where okra matters. If you understand that vegetables carry geography, carry history, carry everything you can't say out loud. Her children taste okra first time. Born in New York. Don't know South except through stories and food. Bite into fried okra and their faces, she sees it. Recognition they didn't know they'd have. Genetic memory of southern gardens. Understanding something essential about where their mother came from, even if they can't name what they're understanding. Okra teaches what words can't, always has, always will. Number 8. Pig feet, December 1941, Baltimore. A man prepares pig feet the way his North Carolina father taught him decades before. Pearl Harbor, before the world ended, before everything changed, before war made everything different. But pig feet stayed the same, because pig feet remember when nothing else does. Pig feet represent resourcefulness, using every part. Turning what rich people discard into something poor people know is delicious, is gelatinous, is deeply flavorful if you know how to cook it right. And he knows because knowing is inherited, is passed down, is survival knowledge encoded in recipes that never got written down because people who needed pig feet couldn't always read, but they could always cook. Cleans them thoroughly, scrubbing, trimming, then into pot with water, vinegar, pickling spices. Overnight, vinegar breaks down tough skin and tendons. Spices close, allspice, peppercorns infuse into every crevice. This is chemistry. This is transformation. This is making tender what starts impossible. Making edible what seems inedible. Making something what everyone said was nothing. Next morning, he simmers them hours. Meat becoming tender enough to fall off bones. This is patience. This is all-day cooking. This is the kind of food that requires time investment that rich people can't understand because rich people buy tender meat already. Poor people make tender meat happen through knowledge and time and refusal to waste anything edible. Because waste is luxury, and luxury is someone else's life, not theirs. Some families ate them pickled straight from jar. Others fried them after boiling. Cornmeal batter, more frying, more transformation. Same ingredient becomes different dishes, depending on preference, depending on tradition, depending on which part of South your people came from, because South isn't monolith, is collection of specific places with specific ways, and pig feet prove specificity matters. His wife serves them with hot sauce and white bread. Gelatinous texture is delicacy. Children refuse them initially. Always do. Pig feet require acquired taste. Require understanding that different isn't wrong. Require maturity that sees past appearance, past texture, past prejudice, toward flavor, toward tradition, toward connection to ancestors who ate this exact food when it was all they had. This dish required an acquired taste, but for those who loved it, pig feet meant home, meant tradition, meant connection to ancestors who survived on what others threw away, meant resourcefulness as virtue, meant nothing is waste if you know how to cook it, meant survival isn't pretty, isn't Instagram, isn't fancy, but survival works, and fancy is irrelevant when survival is question and answer both. Every bite carries North Carolina. Every bone sucked clean honors ancestors who couldn't afford to waste anything. Every meal says we remember. We remember you. We remember how you survived. We remember what you taught. We cook what you cooked. We're still here, still cooking, still us. Number 9. Spoon bread. November 1948, Pittsburgh, Thanksgiving. Virginia woman brings spoon bread to the table. Her neighbors had never seen this. Don't know what this is. Think cornbread means cornbread means cornbread, but spoon bread isn't cornbread, is different, is. Virginia is specific, is her grandmother's recipe, and they're about to learn something they didn't know. They didn't know. Spoon bread sits between cornbread and soufflé. Custardy, light, delicate, requires spoon. To serve because it won't hold slices shape. This is different. This is why it's called spoon bread. This is Virginia answering the question, what if cornbread could fly and soufflé could have flavor, and the answer is spoon bread. She scalds milk with butter, whisks in cornmeal gradually, cooking into thick mush. This is base. This is foundation. This is what everything else builds on. Technique matters here. Rushing makes lumps. Patience makes smooth. She learned patience from her mother, who learned from hers, back to Virginia kitchens that birthed spoon bread generations ago. Mixture cools slightly, egg yolks beaten in one at a time. Each addition enriching batter's color and flavor. Each yolk making it richer, more golden, more perfect. This is luxury made from common ingredients. This is elevation through technique. This is what separates cooking from good cooking from great cooking. Egg whites whipped separately until stiff peaks form. Glossy, white, mountains of meringue. Then folded gently into cornmeal mixture. This is crucial. This is where spoon bread succeeds or fails. This is the moment that determines if it rises light or falls flat. Folding requires light hand. 2 rough air escapes. 2 timid white streaks throughout. Just right batter uniform and airy. Cooking teaches precision. Teaches that some things require gentleness. Teaches that force ruins what patience perfects. Teaches that knowing when to push and when to yield is cooking, is life, is everything that matters. Pours into buttered casserole. Bakes 375 degrees. Puffs, golden top. Inside stays custardy. Perfect. This is achievement. This is Virginia on Pittsburgh Thanksgiving table. This is her grandmother's hands in her hands. This is migration measured in recipes that survive journey, that survive everything, that refuse to disappear even when everything else does. Emerges from oven like savory soufflé. Best eaten immediately while warm. Collapses gently as it cools. This is impermanence. This is reminder that some things are meant for now. This is lesson that perfection is temporary, but that doesn't make it less perfect, just makes it more precious, because fleeting things matter more than permanent things sometimes. Spoon bread teaches this, among other things, among everything. Number 10, Brunswick stew. September 1926. Virginia family arrives in Newark, New Jersey, carrying Brunswick stew recipe written on yellowed paper that's been folded and unfolded so many times the creases are wearing through, and soon the recipe will exist only in memory, which is fine because memory is where recipes live anyway. Paper is just backup. Brunswick stew originated Virginia or Georgia, depending who you ask. Everyone agrees it's hunter's stew. Whatever's available. Whatever got shot, whatever needs cooking. This is practical food, survival food. Food that adapts because adaptation is survival, and survival is everything when survival is threatened. Traditional version used squirrel and rabbit. Northern cities changed that. Chicken and pork became proteins. Not because better, because available. Because you can't shoot squirrels in Newark. Because adaptation is requirement, not choice. Because recipes that don't adapt die, and she wasn't letting this recipe die, not after carrying it this far. Whole chicken simmered until tender, then pork shoulder. Onions, tomatoes, lima beans, into pot they go. Building stew that's part Virginia, part Newark, part past, part present, part who they were, part who they're becoming, and all of it tastes like survival tastes. Like home tastes, like holding on while letting go simultaneously. Corn added next, fresh from cobs in summer, frozen or canned in winter. Okra when she could find it, which is rare, because Newark doesn't know okra, doesn't grow. Okra doesn't sell okra unless someone from somewhere else demands okra. Loud enough, long enough, persistent enough. That stores stock it, reluctantly, temporarily, until demand disappears and okra vanishes again. Stew cooks hours, thickening gradually. Vegetables breaking down. texture becoming almost creamy despite no cream. This is transformation through time. This is alchemy. This is making something new from something old. Making Newark taste like Virginia. Making strange place taste like home through stubborn refusal to forget how food is supposed to taste. Some cooks added potatoes, stretching it further. Feeding more mouths. Same meat. More people. Math that matters when money doesn't stretch far enough and mouths keep needing feeding, and giving up isn't option, because giving up means children go hungry, means failure, means everything you left. South 4 becomes meaningless if you can't even feed your family in the promised land that promised more than it delivered. Finished stew tasted different every time. Depended on vegetables available that week. Depended on budget. Depended on luck. But always tasted like Virginia. Always tasted like home. Always carried memory in every spoonful. Always said you can take us from Virginia, but you can't take Virginia from us. Can't. Won't. Never will. Number 11. Hoe cakes. March 1935. Chicago apartment. Early morning. Woman makes hoe cakes on griddle before factory shift. Depression eating everyone alive. But hoe cakes cost almost nothing. Cornmeal, water, salt, that's it. That's survival mathematics when mathematics is all you have left. Hoe cakes got their name from enslaved people. Cooked cornmeal cakes on hoe blade in fields. In fields where they couldn't stop working long enough to cook properly, so they cooked on tools. On metal, on whatever was hot enough and available. And now she's cooking on griddle in Chicago, but the name remembers. Name always remembers. Names carry history, whether you know history or not. Recipe couldn't be simpler. Cornmeal mixed with water and salt to thick batter. Fried in hot skillet with bacon grease. Simple doesn't mean easy. Simple means no hiding. Simple means technique matters, because there's nowhere for mistakes to hide when there's only 3 ingredients and your skill or lack of it. Cast iron griddle heated until water drops dance. This is temperature testing without thermometers. This is knowledge passed through watching through, trying through, burning through, learning. This is the education that doesn't happen in schools, happens in kitchens, happens in hands that remember what minds forget. Ladles batter into small circles. They sizzle immediately. Good. That sizzle means temperature is right. Means hoe cakes will crisp, not sog. Means breakfast will work, not fail. Small things matter enormously when everything else is failing. When depression is eating your life, when Chicago promised jobs, but jobs disappeared, and promises are lies, and hoe cakes are truth. Each cake cooks until bubbles form on surface, edges dry. Then flip, round the other side. This is patience. This is watching. This is standing at griddle when you're exhausted from yesterday's shift and dreading today's shift and wondering if there will be tomorrow's shift. But children need breakfast. So you stand, so you cook, so you make hoe cakes because giving up is an option when children are watching. Emerge crispy outside, tender inside. Perfect vehicles for syrup, butter, sorghum, molasses. Her children eat them hot off griddle with fingers. Fuel before school, before their day. Before they face Chicago that doesn't want them, that makes that clear daily, that promises equality but delivers segregation with different name polished shinier. These simple cakes connected them to ancestors. Ancestors who created something from almost nothing, who survived impossible, who thrived despite, who refused to die despite everything. Hoe cakes carry that refusal, carry that survival, carry that stubborn insistence on living when living is resistance, when breathing is revolution, when cooking breakfast is victory against forces that want you dead or gone or silent. Hoe cakes say no. Say we're here. Say we're eating. Say we're alive. Say try and stop us. Number 12. Oxtails. January 1958. Harlem apartment fills with smell of oxtails, braising since morning. Rich, deep. Smell that makes neighbors knock asking, "What's cooking?" Asking, "Where'd you get oxtails?" Asking, "Can I have the recipe?" But recipe isn't written, never was, never will be. Because recipe lives in hands, in memory, in knowledge that defies documentation. Oxtails were cheap cuts. Butchers practically gave them away. Didn't realize slow cooking transformed them into luxury. Didn't know what poor people knew. Didn't understand that cheap doesn't mean bad, means undervalued, means waiting for someone who knows value when they see it, even when no one else does. She browns them first in hot oil, searing each piece until deeply caramelized, building flavor. This is foundation. This is why her oxtails taste better than everyone else's. This is the step people skip, thinking it doesn't matter, but it matters. Everything matters. Every step, every moment. Cooking teaches that before life does, or maybe cooking is life, is the same lesson taught different ways, through different mediums, but same truth underneath. After browning, she removes oxtails and builds sauce, onions, garlic, tomatoes, carrots, celery, all sweated until soft and fragrant. This is architecture, building flavor in layers. Each layer supporting the next, each addition making the whole greater. This is how you make magic from meat that costs nothing. This is knowledge. This is power. This is survival. Red wine goes in next. Her mother in Mississippi used water because wine wasn't something they could afford. But Harlem has wine. Cheap wine, but wine. She uses it. Adaptation, evolution. Recipe growing with circumstances. Recipe surviving by changing, by refusing to stay frozen, by understanding that tradition serves life, not the other way around. And sometimes tradition needs updating, and that's not betrayal. That's survival. Oxtails return to pot, nestled into vegetables and liquid, covered, left to braise for hours, low and slow. Heat breaks down connective tissue, transforms tough into tender, releases marrow that enriches sauce. This is time. This is patience. This is all-day cooking that rich people pay restaurants for, but she does at home because she knows how, because knowledge is wealth. They can't tax, can't steal, can't take. By dinner time, oxtails practically melt, fall off bone, sauce thick and rich and glossy, served over rice that soaks up every drop. This is abundance from scarcity. This is luxury from poverty. This is making something extraordinary from something everyone else threw away. This is what black cooking has always been. Taking scraps, making treasure, surviving, thriving, refusing to accept that cheap means less, means worse, means not good enough. Every bite carries Harlem, carries Mississippi, carries the journey between. Every bone sucked clean honors ancestors. Every pot of oxtails is victory. Small victory. Daily victory. Victory that says we're still here, still cooking, still eating, still alive, still refusing to disappear, no matter how hard the world tries to erase us. Number 13. Sweet potato casserole. November 1962. Detroit. Thanksgiving wouldn't be Thanksgiving without sweet potato casserole. Topped with marshmallows. Golden, melting, sweet enough to be dessert, but it's side dish. That's the magic. That's the confusion. That's the Southern logic that makes perfect sense if you're from. There makes no sense if you're not. Sweet potatoes traveled well south to north. Stored in cool cellars. Available even in winter, when other fresh vegetables disappeared into memory. This matters. Availability matters. You cook what you can get. You make tradition from what survives the journey. You adapt, or you starve, or you forget, or you disappear, and none of those are acceptable, so you adapt. She boils them until tender, mashes them with butter, brown sugar, cinnamon, nutmeg, vanilla extract. Each addition making them sweeter, richer, more complex. This is building flavor. This is layering. This is the difference between food and good food, between eating and celebration, between surviving and living. Eggs beaten in, binding everything together, creating custard-like consistency that bakes up smooth and creamy. This is chemistry. This is transformation. This is making something new from individual ingredients that separately mean nothing, together mean everything. Like family, like community, like 6 million people who separately were just people, together were movement. Mixture goes into buttered casserole dish, smoothed on top, then covered completely with layer of white marshmallows. Fluffy, sweet. This is the controversial part. Northerners don't understand. Think it's too sweet. Think it's wrong. Think Southern food is weird. Let them think. She knows better. She knows marshmallows on sweet potatoes. Is tradition, is perfect, is exactly right, is non-negotiable. Casserole bakes 350 degrees. Marshmallows turn golden brown. Tops toasted and caramelized. Bottoms melted into sweet potato base. This is perfection. This is achievement. This is Detroit Thanksgiving that tastes like Alabama. This is maintaining tradition against pressure to assimilate, to forget, to become something else, to erase yourself, to disappear into northern whiteness that wants your labor, not your culture. Some family members preferred it without marshmallows. Pecan streusel topping instead. Brown sugar and butter mixed with chopped pecans. That's fine. That's preference. That's the beauty of family recipes. They adapt, they change, they grow, they survive. Precisely because they're flexible, because they bend, because they understand that survival requires compromise sometimes, but never surrender, never complete erasure, never forgetting where you came from. This dish represented celebration, represented abundance, represented sweetness punctuating holidays and communities building new lives, represented connection to South, to past, to ancestors, to everything migration tried to sever, but couldn't because recipes are bridges. Recipes are memory recipes, are resistance recipes, are proof that you can leave home, but home doesn't leave. You comes with you, lives in you, cooks in your kitchen, flavors your holidays forever. Number 14. Fried apples, January 1944. Milwaukee morning. Cold that makes bones hurt. Fried apples cook on stove-filling kitchen with cinnamon sweetness. Smell that makes cold bearable. Smell that makes Milwaukee feel less hostile. Smell that makes winter survivable when winter feels personal, feels targeted, feels like punishment for leaving South, for coming North, for wanting freedom that costs more than they said it would. Simple side dish. Came from Appalachian and Southern traditions. Apples were cheap. Available even in winter's coldest months. This matters. Winter food matters. Food that doesn't require summer matters. Food that survives cold matters when cold defines your life 4 months every year. And you're from Alabama, where cold meant something different, meant manageable, meant not this. She peels and slices Granny Smith apples thick. They hold their shape better during cooking. Better than softer varieties. Better than sweet apples that disintegrate. Granny Smiths stay firm, stay tart, stay themselves through transformation. She respects that, understands that, feels kinship with apples that refuse to lose themselves, no matter what heat does to them. Butter melts in cast iron skillet. Then apples arranged single layer if possible. Even cooking. This is technique. This is caring enough to do it right. This is refusing to accept that breakfast side dish doesn't deserve attention, doesn't deserve care, doesn't deserve proper technique, because everything deserves care or nothing does, and she chose everything years ago when everything else was being taken. Sprinkles them with white sugar, brown sugar, cinnamon, pinch of nutmeg. Warmth that complements apple's natural tartness. Sweetness that balances acid. Spices that make simple fruit something special. This is elevation. This is what cooking does. Takes ordinary, makes extraordinary, takes nothing special, makes memory, makes tradition, makes home taste like home, even when home is somewhere else entirely. Apples cook slowly, turning translucent at edges, softening but not disintegrating, absorbing butter and sugar completely. This is patience. This is low heat and time. This is refusing to rush, because rushing ruins everything, ruins apples. Ruins food, ruins life, teaches children that fast is better than good, and that's a lie, and she won't teach lies, won't perpetuate lies, won't accept lies even when lies are easier. Splash of water creates steam, helps them cook through. Sugars caramelize into glossy syrup, coating each slice. This is finish. This is making good food perfect food. This is the final touch that separates her fried apples from anyone else's that makes her children. Request them that makes breakfast special, that makes Milwaukee morning bearable, that makes cold feel less cold when sweetness fights back against bitter. Finished apples served alongside pork chops or sausage for breakfast, sweetness balancing salt perfectly, every single time. This is pairing. This is understanding how flavors work together. This is knowledge passed down through generations who couldn't explain why it worked, just knew it worked, and that was enough, because knowing why is luxury and making it work is necessity, and necessity teaches more than luxury ever could, ever did, ever will. Number 15. Chess Pie. May 1951. Philadelphia. Church bake sale. Chess pie sits on table, made by woman from her Tennessee grandmother's recipe. Chess pie that will sell out first because Northerners don't know what they've been missing, don't know chess pie exists, don't know that. Southern desserts are revelations waiting to happen if they just try, if they just taste, if they just open themselves to possibility. Chess pie emerged from Southern necessity. Dessert made from pantry staples. Every kitchen kept these stocked, regardless of economic circumstances, regardless of depression, regardless of migration. Eggs, sugar, butter, vinegar, nothing. Exotic, nothing requiring refrigeration, nothing needing special shopping. This is practical magic. This is making celebration from basics. This is genius born from limitation. Filling required only these things, nothing more. Nothing fancy, nothing complicated. She whisks eggs and sugar together until light and frothy. Then adds melted butter, still warm enough to blend smoothly. This is technique. This is incorporating butter without scrambling eggs. This is knowing temperature matters, knowing timing matters, knowing that details everyone else ignores are details that determine success or failure. Tablespoon of white vinegar. Another of cornmeal. Vinegar adds tang that cuts sweetness perfectly. Cornmeal adds texture. Both additions are subtle, almost invisible, but remove them, and chess pie becomes just sweet pie, becomes boring, becomes forgettable, becomes nothing special. And chess pie is special, is distinctive, is Tennessee on Philadelphia table is her grandmother's hands in her hands. Mixture poured into unbaked pie shell, then baked 350 degrees until top browns and center barely jiggles. This is doneness testing without thermometers. This is knowing by looking. This is experience teaching what books can't. This is the kind of knowledge that dies when grandmothers die, when recipes aren't passed, when migration severs connection, when assimilation erases culture, when forgetting is encouraged and remembering is resistance. As it cools, filling sets, something between custard and cake. Sweet but not cloying. Simple but deeply satisfying. This is balance. This is restraint. This is Southern baking at its finest, uncomplicated but perfect. No frosting, no decoration, no fancy technique. Just good, just right. Just exactly what it should be, nothing more, nothing less, nothing trying to be something it's not. Her chess pie sells out first at bake sale. Northerners discovering Southern treasure. They ask for recipe. She writes it down, leaves out the crucial parts, leaves out the knowing that only comes from making it wrong before making it right, leaves out the feel, the instinct, the judgment that separates her chess pie from someone else's following same recipe, getting different results, because recipes aren't just ingredients and instructions. Recipes are knowledge, and knowledge doesn't write down, doesn't transfer, doesn't explain itself. Every slice carries Tennessee. Every bite is grandmother's kitchen. Every pie is proof that simple is not same as easy. Simple requires mastery. Simple is hardest thing to do right. Simple is what separates good cooks from great cooks from cooks, whose food people remember decades later, still trying to recreate, still failing, because what made it special wasn't in the recipe, was in the hands. Number 16. Tomato gravy. August 1940. Cleveland kitchen. Early morning. Tomato gravy simmers for breakfast, ready to pour over fresh biscuits. This is Southern breakfast. This is what people ate when meat was scarce, but gardens produced tomatoes faster than families could eat them fresh. This is making abundance from glut. This is preservation through consumption. This is practical food that tastes like summer, like gardens, like Southern mornings remembered. Tomato gravy came from times of scarcity, from making something from what you had rather than what you wanted, from gardens that produced whether you needed them to or not, from tomatoes that ripened all at once, demanded creativity, demanded making something besides just tomatoes, because eating raw tomatoes 3 meals daily gets old fast. She starts with bacon fat in cast iron skillet, heating until shimmering, and whisks in flour making roux. This is foundation. This is thickener. This is what transforms tomatoes from soup to gravy. Roux is crucial, is non-negotiable, is the difference between success and failure, between gravy and tomato water, and nobody wants tomato water for breakfast. Flour cooks until golden and nutty, eliminating raw taste, creating base that will thicken tomatoes into proper gravy. This is patience. This is not rushing. This is understanding that some steps can't be skipped, can't be hurried, can't be ignored without consequences. Cooking teaches this before life does. Teaches that shortcuts have costs. Teaches that proper way takes time, but time is investment, not waste. Fresh tomatoes added next, chopped roughly. Their juice released by heat, breaking down into sauce that coats back of spoon. This is transformation. This is watching tomatoes surrender to heat. This is chemistry disguised as cooking, disguised as breakfast, disguised as nothing special. But special is everywhere if you know how to look, how to see, how to value what you're seeing. Seasons with salt, black pepper, pinch of sugar to balance tomatoes' acidity. Sometimes dash of hot sauce. Adjusting, tasting, correcting. This is seasoning. This is the art part. This is what separates her tomato gravy from anyone else's. Same ingredients, different result, because seasoning is judgment is. Instinct is knowing that can't be taught, only learned, only developed through making it wrong enough times that wrong teaches what right is. Gravy simmers until thickened. Tomatoes completely broken down. Their flavor concentrated and rich despite simple ingredient list. This is reduction. This is intensification. This is making bold what started timid. This is what time does to flavor, does to food, does to everything that survives long enough to become something greater than what it started as. Spooned over split biscuits creates breakfast that costs pennies, tastes like abundance, tastes like gardens, tastes like Southern mornings. Every bite carries Cleveland, but also elsewhere. Carries present, but also past. Carries who she is, but also who she was, but also everyone she came from, who made her, who taught her, who live in her hands. When she cooks, when she makes tomato gravy, that's never just tomato gravy, is always something more. Number 17. Banana pudding. July 1965. Chicago. Family reunion. Banana pudding in cut glass trifle bowl. Layers visible through sides. Vanilla wafers. Bananas. Custard. Meringue. This is showpiece. This is the dessert people remember. This is what defines reunion, makes it Reunion makes it special, makes it celebration, rather than just gathering, makes it worth the trip, worth the effort, worth maintaining connection across distance, across years, across everything that tries to sever family bonds. Banana pudding became Black Southern staple despite relatively recent invention. Adopted and perfected by generations of home cooks. Made it theirs, made it essential, made it non-negotiable at gatherings. This is cultural adoption. This is taking something and making it yours so completely that origins don't matter, because what matters is what it became in your hands, in your community, in your tradition. She makes custard from scratch. Milk, sugar, eggs, cornstarch, vanilla, stirred constantly over medium heat, until thick enough to coat spoon. This is labor. This is attention. This is refusing to use instant pudding mix, even though instant exists, even though instant is easier. Because easier isn't better, isn't right, isn't how her mother made it, isn't tradition, isn't maintaining standards, isn't honoring the recipe by doing it properly. Vanilla wafer cookies line bowl bottom. Crisp texture destined to soften, destined to absorb custard and banana juice, destined to transform from cookies into cake-like texture that's neither cookie nor cake, but something third, something better, something that only happens in banana pudding. That's why banana pudding matters, this transformation, this becoming something new while remaining recognizable. Sliced bananas arranged in circles. Sweetness complementing vanilla custard. Poured over carefully, generously. Not stingy with custard, because being stingy with custard defeats the purpose, defeats the joy, defeats the entire point of making banana pudding, which is abundance is. Generosity is saying there's enough, is saying you deserve good things, is saying celebration matters. Layers repeat. Cookies, bananas, custard, until bowl fills. Each layer distinct, but destined to meld together. This is patience. This is building. This is architecture in dessert form. This is creating something beautiful that will be destroyed by serving, but destruction is the point, is the purpose, is how beauty fulfills its function, by being consumed, by being shared, by being eaten, by bringing joy. Meringue tops it all. Whipped egg whites sweetened with sugar. Spread thick and swirled into peaks. Round under broiler. Golden tips. White valleys. This is finish. This is flourish. This is presentation. This is making dessert special, making it gorgeous, making it worthy of reunion, of family, of effort, of maintaining tradition, against everything that says forget, that says assimilate, that says erase yourself. Pudding chills for hours. Cookies softening into cake-like texture. Flavors melding into something greater than parts. This is alchemy. This is transformation through time. This is understanding that some things can't be rushed, that perfection requires. Patience, that good things come to those who wait, and waiting is active, not passive. Is preparation, is anticipation, is part of the joy, not obstacle to joy. Number 18. Pinto beans with cornbread. October 1937. Baltimore. Monday evening. Pinto beans simmer on stove. Earthy smell filling every room. This is Monday food. This is stretching the budget food. This is making it through the week food. This is survival food that tastes like survival, like making do, like refusing to let poverty win, like feeding family on almost nothing and calling it dinner and meaning it. Pinto beans represented survival. Cheap, filling, nutritious, able to feed large. Family when money disappeared before week ended. This is depression mathematics. This is poverty economics. This is the arithmetic that matters when arithmetic determines whether children eat, whether family survives, whether making it through week is victory or defeat, and every week was both somehow simultaneously. She soaked them overnight in cold water, beans swelling and softening, cutting cooking time by hours. This is planning. This is preparation. This is thinking ahead when thinking ahead is luxury, but also necessity but also requirement for survival, because surviving requires. Planning requires thinking beyond now, into tomorrow, into next week, into somehow making it through. Ham hock or neck bone goes into pot for flavor, along with onions, garlic, bay leaves, aromatics. These additions transform beans from bland to flavorful, from subsistence to satisfaction, from just eating to actually enjoying. This is dignity. This is refusing to accept that poor food must be bad food. This is maintaining standards when everything else is stripped away. This is cooking as resistance, as pride, as refusal to surrender. Beans simmer for hours, low and slow. Liquid slowly thickening into pot liquor, worth drinking straight from cup. This is time. This is patience. This is all-day cooking while doing everything else, while working, while cleaning, while raising children, while surviving, while somehow managing to keep pots simmering, to keep watch, to keep beans from burning, because burned beans mean no dinner, mean failure, mean everything was for nothing. She seasons carefully. Salt, black pepper, hot sauce. Tasting and adjusting, until flavor balances perfectly between salt and spice. This is judgment. This is skill. This is knowing that separates her beans from anyone else's beans. Same ingredients, different result. Why? Because she knows. Because generations taught her. Because knowledge lives in her hands, not in written recipes, not in measurements, not in instructions, but in knowing that defies explanation. Fresh cornbread bakes while beans finish. Golden crust crackling. Interior tender. Ready to soak up every drop of pot liquor. This is pairing. This is understanding how foods work together. This is beans and cornbread as unit, as complete meal, as nutritionally perfect combination, as tradition, as culture, as identity, as proof that poverty doesn't mean ignorance, means adaptation, means survival, means making something beautiful from almost nothing. Together, beans and cornbread formed complete protein. Nutritionally perfect meal. Cost almost nothing. Sustained factory workers through double shifts. This is science. This is knowing before nutrition science existed to explain why it worked. This is ancestral knowledge. This is survival wisdom. This is what kept people alive when alive was victory, when breathing was resistance, when eating was revolution. Every bowl carries that. Every bite remembers. Every meal honors everyone who survived on beans and cornbread, before her, who taught her, who live in her kitchen. When she cooks Monday dinner, that's never just Monday dinner, is always something more. Number 19. Fried pork chops, September 1956. Detroit, Saturday night. Fried pork chops sizzle in cast iron. Aroma announcing dinner throughout building, through thin walls, into hallways, up stairwells. This is Saturday night food. This is end of week food. This is we dash made dash it dash through dash another dash week food. This is celebration disguised as dinner, disguised as nothing special. But special is in the making, in the aroma, in the way Saturday night pork chops mean something, mean survived, mean still here. Pork chops were affordable protein, especially bone-in cuts. Butchers sold them cheap because wealthier customers preferred boneless center cuts, preferred convenience over flavor, over economy. Their loss, her gain. She knew bone-in chops tasted better, were worth the trouble, were worth working around. Bone because bone meant flavor, meant juiciness, meant better eating, even if eating required more effort. Worth it, always worth it. She seasons them simply. Salt, black pepper, garlic powder, letting meat's natural flavor shine. Not hiding it under complicated spices or marinades, not disguising it, not apologizing for it, just seasoning it properly and cooking it right. And that's enough, because good ingredients properly cooked don't need complexity, need only competence, need only respect. Chops get dredged in flour mixed with little cornmeal. Extra crunch, coating each piece completely before hitting hot oil. This is preparation. This is technique. This is the difference between fried pork chops that are good and fried pork chops that people remember, that people request, that people talk about, that become legend in family stories, told decades later, still referenced, still remembered, still missed. Cast iron skillet heats with enough oil to come halfway up chops. Hot enough they sizzle immediately upon contact. This is temperature control. This is knowing without thermometers. This is testing with corner of chop. This is knowledge that doesn't write down, doesn't explain itself, doesn't transfer easily because it lives in hands, lives in experience, lives in doing it wrong enough times that wrong teaches right, teaches knowing, teaches mastery. She fries them until golden brown on first side, resisting urge to move them, letting proper crust form completely. This is patience. This is discipline. This is understanding that good things require time, require stillness, require letting process happen without interference, without impatience, without rushing, because rushing ruins everything, teaches children that fast is better than good, and that's lie, and she won't teach lies through cooking through anything. Flipping them once, cook second side until equally brown, then reduces heat to finish cooking through without burning exterior. This is adjustment. This is adaptation. This is knowing when to change course. This is cooking teaching life lessons, teaching that changing approach isn't failure, is intelligence, is survival, is necessary. Chops emerge crispy outside, juicy inside, perfect. Served with rice and gravy made from pan drippings. Nothing wasted, everything used. This is economy. This is making the most from the least. This is stretching. This is survival. This is Saturday night in Detroit that tastes like Saturday night everywhere she's ever lived, because some things transcend geography, transcend migration, transcend everything. Fried pork chops are one. Family is another. Both survived the journey. Both still here. Both still Saturday night. Both still mattering. Both still sustaining. Both still home. Number 20. Tea cakes. December 1969. Harlem. Grandmother bakes tea cakes for Christmas. Recipe unchanged since her childhood in rural Georgia. Unchanged since her mother baked them. Since her grandmother before that. Unchanged across generations, across migration, across everything that changed everything else. These cookies are continuity, are connection, are proof that some things survive intact, that some things refuse to change, that some things are perfect already. And perfect doesn't need improvement, needs only preservation, needs only passing down, needs only continuation. Tea cakes weren't fancy, just simple sugar cookies. Didn't require refrigeration, special ingredients, equipment beyond bowl and spoon. This is practical baking. This is cookies that make sense in circumstances that don't. This is sweetness accessible to everyone regardless of economics, regardless of location, regardless of anything, because accessibility matters, because everyone deserves sweetness, because denying people joy is cruelty. And tea cakes are joy, are accessible joy, are democratic joy. She creams butter and sugar together by hand, beating until light and fluffy. Arm muscles remembering this motion from decades past, from Georgia kitchens, from her mother's elbow, from watching before doing, from doing wrong before doing right, from decades of Christmas Eve baking tea cakes while children slept, while morning approached, while cookies needed finishing before morning, came before presents, before celebration, before Christmas happened. And tea cakes were part of Christmas, were required, were tradition. Eggs added one at a time, then vanilla extract. Mixture becoming smooth and pale, ready for dry ingredients. This is method. This is order. This is understanding that sequence matters, that steps exist in sequence for reasons that rushing or reordering breaks things, creates. Failures creates disappointment. Cooking teaches respect for process, teaches that shortcuts have costs, teaches that proper way is proper for reasons, even if reasons aren't obvious aren't immediate, aren't clear, until you do it wrong, and wrong teaches what right is. Flour, baking powder, salt stirred in just until combined. Dough coming together. Soft, but not sticky. This is feel. This is knowing by touch. This is sensory knowledge that can't be photographed, can't be described adequately, can't be taught except through doing, through touching through. Failing enough times that failure teaches success. She knows this dough. Knows it like breathing. Knows it like her own hands. Knows it because this dough is her childhood, is her mother is Georgia, is everything she carried north in her heart when hands couldn't carry enough. She rolls dough out on floured surface, cutting circles with drinking glass, because she never owned actual cookie cutters. Never needed them. Glass works fine, does same job, costs nothing. This is pragmatism. This is making do. This is resourcefulness as virtue, as necessity, as survival skill, as what you learn when you learn that fancy tools are optional. But cookies are mandatory, and mandatory happens with whatever tools you have, or you don't get mandatory. Cookies bake 350 degrees until edges turn golden, but centers stay pale, creating texture contrast in each bite. This is precision. This is knowing doneness by looking, by time, by experience, by smell, by instinct, by everything except the instructions that don't exist, because this recipe never got written down, never needed writing, because some knowledge lives in hands, lives in memory, lives in continuation that doesn't require documentation. They emerge simple but perfect, not too sweet, slightly crispy outside, tender inside. Cookies that taste like childhood, like love, like home remembered. Her grandchildren eat them not knowing their great-great-grandmother made these exact cookies in Georgia. Not knowing these cookies survived slavery, survived Reconstruction, survived Jim Crow, survived migration, survived everything. Not knowing isn't necessary for cookies to taste like home, to taste like love, to taste like everything that matters about family, about continuity, about surviving, about maintaining, about passing down, about refusing to let everything beautiful die. Tea cakes teach this, among other lessons. Among everything. These 20 recipes traveled north in suitcases, in memory, in hands that refused to forget the motions learned at southern stoves. They fed millions who built new lives in cities that promised freedom but delivered struggle, discrimination, and hard-won dignity instead. Every pot of beans, every fried chicken piece, every slice of sweet potato pie was an act of cultural preservation and resistance. The Great Migration changed America forever, and these recipes were part of that change comfort food that built community in impossible places. They said, "We're still us, no matter where we are," speaking in the language of cast iron, cornmeal, and love. If this changed how you see American history, hit like. If these recipes connect to your family's migration story, drop a comment below. Subscribe for more heritage cooking that honors our ancestors' journeys through the food that sustained them, comforted them, and refused to let them forget who they were. The recipes survived, and so did we.